Caroline Jengo for Prime Edition.
Good morning, and thank you so much for creating time to catch News Tech today. We are really happy that you created time to join us, a program that seeks to explore issues shaping the news. We have studio sit-downs with experts in various fields to give us an in-depth understanding of some of the issues that are shaping debate across the country. And today it's not any day different. We are going to be discussing two pivotal issues. The first one touches on just, elevating the technical training agenda in the country. And in the second part of this conversation, we'll be talking about matters gender-based violence. The Nairobi County Assembly is set to discuss and pass, or either reject, the Nairobi City County Sexual and Gender-Based Management and Control Bill of 2019. So later on, our conversation will be centering around the gender-based violence status in the country, some of the gaps, and how this bill seeks to seal those gaps, especially for residents of Nairobi County. But first, we want to talk about matters youth, matters employability skills, matters Tvet. And joining me in studio this morning to have this very important conversation is Dr. Augustine Ndung'u. Dr. Augustine Ndung'u is the CEO, CAP Youth Empowerment Institute. He has also co-authored a recently unveiled book by the name How to Make Tvet Work for Kenya. Quite an interesting title for our book, if you ask me. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Asante sana.
Thank you for creating time for us.
Yes, thank you very much for hosting me this morning.
All right. Yes. We're having this conversation at a time when there's a lot of concern and interest around Tvet and, yes, just imparting the technical skills, yes, in our young people in the country. But on a general perspective, I'd like us to begin by you just telling us a little bit about CAP, yes, Youth Empowerment Institute, and, yes, a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. I work for an organization, like you said, called CAP. It's CAP. CAP is CAP. Actually, it's an acronym. CAP Youth Empowerment Institute is an NGO. Our mandate is to provide skills and support for young people. We have created a model that focuses on helping the most marginalized young people, and then we provide them what we call short-term skills so that they can gain a foothold in the labor market. Mm-hmm. And we have been using that model in Kenya, adapting it in many different ways for the last 10 years. In the process, we have been able to train well over 80,000 Kenyan youth all over this country. And we have achieved transition to employment very, very high. Despite the problem we have in the economy, out of those 80,000, 75% have gained entry-level jobs. And another 10% have been able to start micro businesses. That's a very, very significant achievement, despite the challenges Kenya faces.
All right, 80,000, that's a significant number.
Yes.
You're talking about, youth, vulnerable youth.
Yes.
I'm interested in knowing, when you use the term vulnerable youth, yes, who is the target in this particular demographic?
It is youth who are at the lowest level possible. So, for example, we train young people who have dropped out of primary school because they couldn't continue for the many reasons we know, either poverty or they became orphans. We train young people who dropped out of Form 4, who could not go beyond it, again for all those same reasons. We have customized the program we use so that we are able to train actually those two groups together if they come to the same class. We reach out to many, many young women. We have 52% of the youth we train are young women. And again, it's for the same reason. We know young women are actually marginalized even by just being young women as far as technical education is concerned. We come from a society that sees technical education as a male domain, which it is not. We have also worked to reach out to radicalized young people. For about 3 years, we worked in the coast region to work with young people who are in danger of becoming radicalized, or who had already become radicalized and were being reformed so that they can rejoin the sector. Mm-hmm. And then now we have also extended our definition of vulnerability to regions of this country where if you go there, hardly any learning is taking place, not just technical education, any learning. If you go to the northern counties, Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit, Garissa, Tana River, because of insecurity mainly, there's very little learning happens there. So we have created special programs and a special adaptation of our model that enables us to train young people in those areas as well. Mm-hmm. So for us, marginalization is any young person who is in a state of lack of hope, where we can move them from lack of hope to hope, and hope for us is they secure an opportunity to earn a living. Based on that, they gain the aptitude and the attitude to also want to continue and grow, sometimes by themselves, sometimes by help from elsewhere.
All right.
Yes.
I'd like to probe you on this adaptability of the model.
Yes.
In just a bit, we'll be discussing that. But does it mean then that you have a national presence, like where you based, where you found, for a young person who could be watching?
Yes, we have a national presence. We have been working in 30 counties of this country. We have more than 32 training centers that are mostly hosted in technical education institutions, mostly VTCs actually. And those centers are still there, although we are not running them directly now because the program that set them up has come to an end, but that initiative is still there. In addition, we are working with more than 300 technical education institutions in this country. We started 6 years ago this program so that we can help them to achieve the same results we do by applying some elements of our model. And it has been very, very successful. In fact, the reason why we are withdrawing from direct training ourselves is because we want to focus as much of our effort on this capacity building of the technical education sector.
So I'm understanding one thing from what you're saying is that initially you were directly engaging with the young people, but
yes,
as you get deeper into this, you're
yes,
trying now to sort of be incorporated in the Tvet institutions.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
is there an inspiration for that?
Yes.
Or an objective for you doing that?
Yes, there is an inspiration for it.
All right.
Like I said, we started our program in Kenya in 2011. In the beginning, we had worked in other countries of Africa. We had never worked here before. So we were calling it a proof of concept stage. That is to show whether what we have done elsewhere could work here. And we spent about 5 years proving that it works. When you do that, though, there are questions that arise. Then the question is, okay, you've shown us it works, now what? For us, the answer to that question was we have to teach other people to do what we do. And when we looked around, the biggest provider of skills is the government. So we aligned ourselves to the county-based technical education sector. They are called vocational training centers. Many people know them as village polytechnics. We have been working with them gradually to the point where we now have more than 300 of them under that program. And we have been transitioning our model and all the lessons we learn to them. It is also the reason why we decided to publish a book, because we said, okay, is this it? The answer, of course, is not. There are many, many other issues that they are dealing with that need to be responded at national level. Plus, there are also other institutions that need the same help. What we have actually done is we have taken the entire lessons that we have learned in a period of 10 years, and we have told that story. But we have gone beyond telling that story to now say, look, these lessons can also be used to reform this sector, the entire Tvet sector, so that it achieves exactly the same or more, 75%. It's not rocket science, it can be done. However, there are things that have to happen outside of the classroom as well as inside the classroom. Yes.
How to make Tvet work for Kenya. That's
Exactly.
the title of your book.
Yes.
And you will be answering that question for us before you wind up this
definitely.
conversation. But
Yes.
I just want to understand more about this model.
Yes.
This specialized way of imparting these skills to these young people.
Yes.
What is your idea?
It's a 9-step model. It's very, very simple. We call it Basic Employability Skills Training, BEST. BEST, and it's only got 9 steps, and that's the entire secret behind the success we have been able to achieve, is that out of those 9 steps there are some steps that are absolutely essential. The very first one is we never train before we know who will employ the people we are training. So our very first step of our model is what we call a market scan. A market scan is simply an assessment of who is hiring young people in this location and in which sectors. So
so it starts from assessing the job market.
Yes,
and looking at the demands in the job market.
Exactly. We look at the demand, and the assessment is very simple. We have simplified it. We will go knocking on doors. We would come to KBC and ask you, who are you hiring? And what qualifications are you looking for? And then employers are quite happy to tell us. They are also quite happy to tell us how we are failing, because they are not very happy with our skills training sector in Kenya. And then the conversation continues. If we trained these young people, would you hire them? Usually when we are new, the answer to that question is maybe. Let's wait and see first whether you can deliver. But then would you be willing to be part of training those young people? Quite often employers say, yes, we would be. and they actually sacrifice their time and resources. So that step is done, the market assessment. Once we collect information on who hires, we take the top profiles that we have found have the best potential. You see, these are not jobs that we are counting. They are prospects for jobs that we know will be available if people are trained and if the employers know that we are training the people they could hire.
For those jobs?
Yes.
Okay.
Only after that, then we will decide, we will select the curriculum that delivers skills for those top profiles we have chosen. And then the delivery of that curriculum is the other key to our success, the other secret. It is not just teaching you the technical skills. It incorporates what we call life skills. Those are the attitudes that make you successful no matter where you work, even when you change jobs. It actually, life skills are skills for life, essentially. We combine that. And then the third one is we go back to the same employers we talked to, and we bring them into the classroom. And it is these employers who now start working with these young people, really opening their eyes that this is what's possible. These are the prospects for you. This is what you can expect. But this is also what me as an employer expect if you are my employee. That preparation takes place over a period of 3 to 4 months, and we close by a module we call work readiness. Work readiness is simply preparing young people for the world of work. Many of our colleges don't do that. They train you and they hope that you're going to be okay. For us, anybody who has ever been trained in KBC will tell you they have had the chance to go to the industry for the sector they were being trained in, and they have had people coming from that industry, and they have had a chance to even practice that work before they left the classroom. And those key elements essentially is what is giving us all the good results we are seeing. So our argument is this: these are not new things. These are, if you went to college to learn to become a teacher, we were taught to do those things, but you don't do them. Why? We don't know. So that's the reason we have published this book, because we are saying it can be done. And we can reform this entire nation. We have 5 million young people without jobs today, mostly because they don't have the skills and because the employers who would hire them say they don't have the right attitude.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because one thing that stands out is the fact that you bring the job market to the class.
Yes.
And you sort of come up with a customized curriculum that fits and meets the demand of this job market, and ensure that these people who are taken through this training actually have something that will meet that demand.
Yes.
Where is the problem with what we are having right now?
What we are having right now is we use what is called a supply-driven training approach. So you go to school, you are taught, you never see the people you are being taught to work for because they never come. And then you finish, you never receive any support after you finish. They say goodbye, we hope that you are going to be successful in looking for work. Guess what? Many people fail because employers say, even the things you taught them for my job have changed. You could have come and asked me. I would have been very happy to tell you what you need to change so that these people are worth me hiring them. That's one of the biggest problems. There are some good things happening, though, to change from that supply-driven to demand-driven. Demand-driven is the one I've just explained, where you start from looking at the market. There are some efforts already. The biggest effort has been the introduction of a framework called Competency-Based Education and Training, CBET, by the government of Kenya. It's a government policy now to reform all Tvet institutions so that they will become demand-driven. They will do what we have been doing. And in fact, the book we have published now is we are saying, look, here are some very easy ways to apply the CBET framework so that you become CBET compliant. It's a very good move. But there are also some bad things happening, and I think we need to point them out. The body that is responsible for CBET is the Curriculum Development and Certification Council, a government institution. They are the ones that were created when the Tvet Act was created back in 2013. Guess what? I saw a report last week saying that it's going to be dismantled. Some people in the Ministry of Education think that CDAC is not important, meaning they probably think CBET is also not important. If these things are not called out and changed, we are not going to go anywhere, because government creates policy, and the development actors and government ministry and institutions implement that policy. But when the same top comes and says that policy is no longer important, we are going to cancel it, what signal are you sending?
Sort of like chucking the engine out and expecting it to continue functioning.
Literally, yes. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's talk about how now to make this Tvet work.
Yes.
You answering these questions in your book.
Yes.
I need these answers. How do we make it work?
How to make Tvet work. How to make a Tvet work. The very, very simple answer is to convert our technical education system from being supply-driven to becoming demand-led. Demand-led means that we respond to the needs of the market instead of training people and hoping the market will like them. Now, for that to happen, though, there are some things that have to happen in the classroom. I've mentioned the classroom is literally, you have to bring industry into the classroom and the classroom into the industry. That has to be inevitably a part of the training program. But the other side of the equation is at the top. Government decisions like the one of getting rid of SIDAC, which are wrong, in my opinion, should not be entertained at all. That's a mistake. It should totally. But there are also other changes that need to happen. Number one, demand-driven training takes also structural and financial changes that need for it. It's an expensive business. And the government resources to Tvet sector so far, today, is less than 10% of the Ministry of Education budget. The entire Tvet system receives less money than the universities. Guess what? Universities train managers, Tvet trains the workers. Who are the managers going to manage? That has to be changed. We make very, very specific recommendations for example, the need to create a ministry of Tvet. The need is not just the fact that Tvet now is a very small department of the education ministry, because the education ministry is the largest in the country, is that the education ministry, we see it, and inevitably parents especially and children, it's about basic education, where the majority are. It's about university education, where the intellectuals are. Tvet gets lost in between, yet it should be the engine that drives development by mobilizing the people who will bring about that development. We have also talked about making sure that if we are going to become demand-led as a country, then it means the industry has to have a role in delivering and designing plans for Tvet. In our book, we recommend the creation of a skills council, a national skills council that's going to actually be driven by the private sector, whose job is to tell us what skills we should offer. Today, the decision as to what skills Kenya should offer is not based on market scans. It's based on somebody sitting in a ministry somewhere and deciding we need this number of carpenters, we need this number of programmers. That's not their role. It's the role of the people who employ those carpenters to actually say, well, yes, we think we will need this number because our prospects for growth are this much. And those are employers. So our recommendation is create a council powerful enough that employers are able to give direction to the rest of us and say, this is what we need, this is how we need them trained. If you don't do that, we are not going to hire them. Powerful enough, in fact, to be heard. This is how Germany has done it. We talk about the German dual system. The German dual system is not really driven by the Ministry of Education. Tvet is not even a part of the Ministry of Education in Germany. It's part of the Ministry of Planning. It is driven by industry saying these are the things we need, these are the skills we are looking for in the next X number of years.
And this is how to go about it.
This is how to go about it.
All right. I like what you're saying about, how to bridge this gap between what the job market wants and what we are offering as training for that particular job market. And we will be getting back to this conversation just a little bit. But in studio, we have been talking about making the work environment more fruitful, more, sustainable, and also preparing our young people for that particular work environment. And I've been engaging Dr. Augustine Ndung'u. He is the CEO, CAP Youth Empowerment Institute. And before we went to that particular link, Daktari, we were talking about your recently unveiled book, How to Make Tvet Work for Kenya. And you're sharing quite a number of useful insights on some of the gaps that you have identified in Tvet in this particular country, and how that can be sealed. And I heard you talk about something that goes away from what I would term the norm, the academics, the education, the grades, the passing of exams. You talked about life skills as a fundamental aspect of training young people to be ready for the job market. Why is this important for you, life skills?
Life skills for us is important. We came to it in a very strange way. Like I said, we target vulnerable young people, marginalized young people who are in the depths of hopelessness. So for us, from the very beginning, we knew it was not enough to just give them skills. These are young people who have been hit very badly by life. They needed something to lift their confidence, their self-belief, so that they can function with the technical skills we give them. So the very, very first time we created the best model, it included life skills. But then over time, we have come to realize it's not just those vulnerable young people who need life skills. It's all young people. And it's a very simple, there's a very simple logic behind it. You are training somebody to work in an institution. It can be a business, it can be even your business. Guess what? That's a community of people. And if you don't have the attitudes that enable you to work within that community of people, to relate to them positively, it possibly means that you cannot be a very useful worker there, or you'll not be very productive. Now, over the last 10 years, we have spent a lot of time and money and effort in providing data that shows that indeed that is correct. The story you just showed a few minutes ago, that organization, AFIDEP, worked with us in 2017 and 2016 to collect information on just that one story. What are the non-technical skills that young people need so that they can be successful in the world of work? My organization was one of the case studies, and they came up with very, very interesting results and recommendations, which is that if we really, really want our Tvet sector to work, then whatever decisions for change are flowing to change that system have to include life skills as an integral part of whatever change happens. It's not enough to teach somebody to be a good photographer, for example. You also have to teach them how to relate to the people being photographed or to the community that they are working with or where they are working in. In my opinion, if you were to ask me to tell you the secrets behind the KPA model and approach over the last many years, I would put life skills at the top of the list. And it has been confirmed many times. Yes, many times.
Let's talk about this life skills. Like,
yes.
What are, just say 5 fundamental life skills that would make somebody, a young person, thrive at the workplace, aside from your expertise as a photographer, your expertise as, say, you know, somebody who is a carpenter, or whichever technical skill you have. What else would make you thrive in terms of life skills?
Okay, we did a research a few years ago where we talked to more than 3,000 employers and asked them exactly that question. What are the life skills you value, and why do you value them? And they told us. So for me, even to talk to a young person today, I'll tell you the top life skill is one. It's not even one of those 5. It's one that was implied over and over. Learning to learn. You have to be ready to learn every day new things. You will never stop. That's it for your life. That's just the way our world is today. After that, employers tell us, if I'm going to have you as my employee, there are certain things that you must have, and if you don't have, I'll try to teach you. But some of them I will not even try to teach you. Integrity is the first one. They say honesty. If you are not honest, and I'm going to put you in charge of my resources, no. The other one is leadership. I'm looking for people who are willing to grow with me and with my business, with my organization. And that means also not only being a good follower, but also being somebody willing to help those people behind you to rise up. Communication. Most businesses are all about communication, and it's not just communication outside with the world, but it's also communication within the business itself. I'm looking for people who are good at communicating, who are responsive to challenges as they happen, and then who are willing to take to do whatever it needs. To take initiative. They call it initiative. Leadership is described in many, many different ways. Then they talk about self-confidence. We are looking for people who will project a confident image of our business. If you don't have that self-confidence, maybe we can help you to build it. However, what employers told us is, in an ideal Kenya, we would wish that our colleges and universities gave those skills before the students came to us to become employees. Now, we know it can be done because KPA has shown it can be done for 10 years. And the reason we wrote the book was also partly to show, look, this is not just theory. This is not something from out there. We adapted this program to Kenya. All the lessons are Kenyan. The 80,000 young people are all Kenyan. The employers who worked to help them become good employees are all Kenyan. There's nothing from overseas. It's all here. We have the resources, we have the ability. All we need now is the political will to act. That's all that's remaining.
And you're saying it's possible.
It is possible.
Most of these life skills, we tend to think these are things that you learn from way back when you were young, and it is something you will continue learning over time.
Yes.
How do you shrink this within the period this person is within that particular training program?
Yes, it is a fact. Life skills, you don't only learn them in school. The earliest life skills, you learn them on the lap of your mom as a child. That's how early life skills you begin to learn them. But perhaps over time, because it becomes embedded as so much a part of your life, we don't see value to them, and maybe that's why many colleges have not bothered to integrate them in the technical training that they offer. So how we do it as KPA is very, very simple. We have selected life skills for us that lift somebody from the lowest level you can imagine possible by helping them to answer 3 questions. Who am I? Where do I want to go from here? Because we take it for granted you don't want to be there. You're in a very bad place. How do I get there? And how do I get there is not just the technical skills that can get you a job. It's what attitudes do I need? Do I need to find a better way of recovering if I fail? Because there will be failure. We call that resilience. We hammer on it over and over. You are going to fail. It is inevitable. The difference between you and your friend who also fails is what you do the day after you have failed. We call it resilience, and it's important, and it's something that a lot of our Kenyan young people have. And then after that, we take people from outside of the classroom. These would be employers. Sometimes we bring religious leaders, Muslim, Christian, Hindu. They have all come to our classroom. And we tell them, can you now explain these life skills, not just as preparing for work, but as preparing for life? And they're able to do that. They will quote holy scriptures and all that, and that reinforces it. And the third one is we actually get young people to practice those life skills during the training. We make sure that they practice as many times as possible. We even have a tool for assessing how you practice, a very simple tool. It's a form. If you come to our classroom, you see it stuck on the door near the wall somewhere that has many, many lines on it. Each line will be the name of a student, and each column would be the name of a behavior that we expect you to show, and if you don't show it, you are marked. So you come late, there's a life skill that you are failing not to model. You are not responding to questions or to points raised in the classroom, or you are rude to your students, or you are not participating in group work, or you are not doing your homework in time, or you are not disciplined. They are all there. You tally the points. Every 4 weeks, you are able to see your score of life skill behavior modeling. And we do that over a period of 3 months. And guess what? Within 3 months, it has become a habit. Many people say they never had to learn it anymore. Also, they could never stop doing it. Good habits.
It becomes part of them.
It becomes part of you in only 3 months. Only 3 months.
No wonder, you know, we were jokingly sharing this with you earlier. No wonder there are people say that there could be a possibility we can have ignorant PhDs.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can have.
We can have ignorant PhDs.
We can have ignorant professionals, and we do have ignorant professionals. You've seen, the society spends a lot of money in training PhDs, but sometimes when you see them fail, it's not in what is in their head, it's in their behavior. And that behavior actually...
And how prepared they were for life.
For life, exactly.
The kind of life skills they have.
Yes.
How to tackle failure, how to just be people of integrity, commitment, time management. These basic things that we have made normal and become so used to.
So if you go to church, possibly the preacher repeats this over. These are the things God wants you so that you can go to heaven. Those same life skills. That's what they're repeating every day. They quote even the law, the Bible. This, don't do this, don't lie, don't cheat. Guess what? Those are the same life skills you need for life on this earth and for work. And young people, actually there were young people who are prepared for those life skills. Our research has shown are way, way, way ahead of their peers. Way ahead. And my question is, why can't we do that for all Kenyan young people? What's to stop us?
All right, so let me take you back to the issue of employment.
Yes.
And let's explore the unemployment rates in our country. Where do you find the mismatch? What is the contributing factor? Where is this button that we need to perhaps press?
Yeah, unemployment rate in Kenya is very bad. It's probably as bad as it can be. We see statistics, percentages. Now I like to use absolute numbers because they are easier. Let's just take young people between 18 and 35. That cohort is about 15 million Kenyans. More than a third of them, we are told, by government statistics, are either unemployed or underemployed. They have no prospects at all. You said, what are the main reasons why they are unemployed? The very first piece of blame I lay is at our Tvet system. Our technical education system is the one that's supposed to give them the skills that can make them employable. We are not doing that. We've seen already why. and the change that needs to be done. The other one is the consequence of that is there is research that has now been done and repeated a few times actually that says 40% of business owners in this country say they are not able to grow their business because they cannot get the right people to hire. 40%. Yet the problem for hiring is not with the business owners, it is with the Tvet system. If we fixed it, that's a low-hanging fruit already, 40%. But then let's take a look at other low-hanging fruit. This year, the same government, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics numbers told us that Kenya imported food worth 103 billion between January and June. 103 billion shillings worth of food. Those are jobs we sent overseas or to Uganda or to Tanzania. God bless them. I'm not saying there is anything wrong with them. But those are jobs our young people could easily take if, again, we provide them the skills and the support so that they can exploit them. 103 billion shillings in food production is almost 1 million jobs. So we are already talking of what? 5 million young people unemployed. We take 1 million. You have already taken, you left million. It for... Maybe the other 40% takes another 1 million. And then we start looking at the higher things like the work that the government is already doing now to get youth into growing sectors like digital skills, Ajira, for instance. It's a very, very good initiative because of what happens. It's going to position Kenyan youth for the future. That's where the world is going. Almost everything is going to become digital. Almost everything.
So from what I'm gathering, this issue of unemployment is actually sort of a man-made problem that can be solved if 1, 2, 3 things change.
Yes.
All right.
It's a man-made problem. It's a, let me be blunt, it's a government-made problem. That's how I see it. It is. It can be solved today if they wanted. It could be done 1 year.
All right. I will be coming back to you just for you to talk to us more about how then do we change the narrative in this country going forward when it comes to youth empowerment and just equipping the skills to them. And Dr. Ndung'u, Junei was just probing Charles Majani on some of the issues revolving around the Tvet institutions in the country. And one of the things that she talked about was the issue of attitude. And when I say attitude, for a very long time, there was this feeling that Tvet was not that, attractive for young people. Many of them just wanted to go to universities.
Yes.
What is happening currently in terms of that?
That is changing.
Attitudinal change.
We have had historically this belief, it's not historically, it's just maybe 30 years, that Tvet is for failures, which is strange because all of us depend on Tvet to live every day. If you drive a car, you live in a house, you're sitting in one today, watching TV, you depend on a Tvet graduate, the so-called failure. That is changing already, and it's changing not because of us adults, it's young people who are changing. Mr. Majani mentioned that this year, for the first time, 33,000 young people who should have gone to university decided to go to Tvet. They have seen the future, even though our parents are still insisting you have to go and get a degree. That's the main change that needs to happen. That attitude change is not with the young people any longer. It's with parents, it's with government officers, it is with people like me and you, people in the media who believe that the Tvet story is not worth telling because it's boring. It's not boring. It's not boring at all. That's the kind of change that needs to happen. The other change that needs to happen, in my opinion, is Mr. Majani talked about the resources the government is spending on Tvet. That's true, but that's still only 10% of the Ministry of Education budget. It's less than university. That figure has to go up by a big, big number, and the biggest portion of that money has to go to the ground, the bottom of the Tvet pyramid. Our constitution divided Tvet into 2 pieces. The biggest piece, 60 to 70%, is controlled by county governments, 47 of them. The smaller portion, maybe 40%, 30%, is controlled by national government. Almost all the resources go to that 30%. That big portion, which is supposed to be the feeder to the top, has been left with. It doesn't get resources. 2 years ago, there was a very visionary, I thought, policy to provide a capitation grant to every village polytechnic based on the number of youth they enrolled. And that's where this massive enrollment change began to happen. I understand that has been removed. These are the kind of policy decisions where you actually wonder whether the government, the right hand, knows what the left is doing.
Sort of, negating the gains we've made so far.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is there is inequality in the reforms that are currently happening in the Tvet.
Yes, there is inequality in the reforms. The national government allocates resources. There's a commitment to build a technical institution in every in every regional parliament. There's 290 of them, and that's a very good thing. However, this country has already 2,000 Tvet institutions. The majority are dying or closed already. You just go to any village, you'll see them. We used to call them village polytechnics because of lack of resources. Yet, these are the ones that are next to the young person who is vulnerable, who can't come to Nairobi or go to Mombasa to get the training. They can get that training there. And now, the Kenya National Qualification Framework has made it possible that that young woman or that young man from that village can go all the way to PhD if they want to. If you kill the bottom, the top is not going to work. That's all I'm saying. We need to get resources to the bottom. The other big change for me is just take Tvet out of the Ministry of Education. It will not grow when it is subsumed by a ministry that has 500 billion shillings, serves millions, and Tvet is just a little department on the side. It needs either to become its own ministry, if our government thinks it's important enough, or put it under Ministry of Planning, like other countries have done, at the very least. Okay. And then the third one is just get the private sector making the decisions for skills training in Kenya. That's not the job of government functionaries or experts like me, no. That's the job of the employers. They are the ones who should tell us who we should train and how we should train them.
And how many they need.
And how many they need, exactly.
Yeah, because yes. You know, who makes the decision on how many journalists we need, how many doctors we need, how many carpenters we need.
Exactly.
No wonder we have so many people floating. They have the papers, they have the degrees, they have the certificates, the diplomas, but they have nowhere to be accommodated. I want us to look at that future, and I want us to be careful not to transfer the same problem we have been having to you know, what we are talking about.
Yes.
Because yes, we are having this momentum around Tvet, really gaining, really building up, and conversation is currently picking up around Tvet.
Yes.
And if the media feels you know, conversation around Tvet is boring, at least as KBC we do not.
Yes,
that's why we are having this conversation this morning.
Yeah.
As we do this, as awareness continues, as more young people become attracted to, you know, taking up these technical skills, are we opening up opportunities for them? Are these opportunities there? Or we could just have excess engineers, excess carpenters who we cannot accommodate in our job market.
Exactly.
What do we do so that
that's a very good question.
The problem?
Exactly. That's a very good question to ask, and it's a reasonable one. The answer is not really intuitive. It is something that we have also had to prove to ourselves first before we wrote a book about it. It's simply this. If the reason we have excess carpenters, we have excess hairdressers, is because we train without reference to what the market can absorb. If we change our Tvet system so that it trains to what the market can absorb, we will at the very least ensure that we are not overstocking on those sectors, that because young people are coming in, that then we say, okay, we'll train you anyway. That's the first step. The second one is this. Tvet, a good Tvet system is supposed to be the workforce department of our employers. An employer, anybody who starts a business wants it to grow. Nobody starts a business without a desire for it to grow. No business will grow without good workers. If I knew that I could rely on the college next door to train the carpenters I need for my carpentry workshop, I could even plan to double, because I know the day I need them, they'll be there. That's where we must position Tvet. It has to be at the service of the employers, the service of the market, so that the employers can also grow alongside it. That's how most of the countries that we say have become developed countries, China, Asian countries especially, Singapore, Korea, that's how they have done it. They have essentially said, you tell us what we need. That's the government gone to employers and said, you tell us what you need today, we are going to make sure it's provided. But also, we want you to tell us where you see us going in the future, and again, what workforce resources you need. We are going to plan with you to make sure they are ready when you need them. That's where Kenya must aim to be.
All right.
Yes.
Dr. Ndung'u, thank you so much. How to Make Tvet Work for Kenya, a book he has co-authored. Really looking forward to, you know, going through this, answering quite a number of pertinent questions about how we can be able to make this practical and sustainable for our country. As we wind up this conversation, what's the way forward for you? What does the future look like for the young people and also for KAP Youth Empowerment Institute?
The future for me, and I would like to address this to young people, and I say thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the ones who are actually driving this change. And it's my hope that you're going to stay the course even when you get frustrated. This is probably the best time to be a young person ever, in my own opinion. That's probably the best time. And what I say to young people is this: Tvet is not for failures. You already know now. You know that. Do your best to seek an opportunity to learn a course, even if you're at the university. You should not finish your training and preparation for life without having something you can be proud of, that you can do with your hands, or that you can do with your hands and brain, not just relying on the training you get in the academic system. Our government is providing those opportunities now. We are hoping they are going to increase, because we are listening to the plans, and we are of course going to be correcting the government where we think we are going backwards. And KPA is still remaining as a small training provider, not as big as before. Like, for example, now we are enrolling in our training center in Buruburu and in Kisumu. And very soon we are going to go to Mombasa, where you'll get the same kind of training that we said got us to where we are today, where we are saying 75% of young people who go through our training get jobs. And we want that to happen to all the Tvet sectors. There is one other benefit. We have worked with many Tvet partners, and some of them are offering fantastic programs now using this demand-led approach that we worked with them to develop. And we are happy to connect you to them. And even if we don't connect you to them, just knock on their doors. Go and ask, what are you offering, and what are you offering after I finish this training? If they give you a good answer, enroll. If you get a chance to get a scholarship from the government, grab it. I've been sad to see money being taken back to the treasury in the past years because young people didn't know about it. Don't let that happen. Go take that opportunity. And thank you once again. We know that young people are going to uplift this country. Our job now as adults is to make sure they succeed.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Augustine Ndung'u, CEO, CAP Youth Empowerment Institute, also a co-author of How to Make Tvet Work for Kenya, talking about a model that seeks to, go the demand way when it comes to preparing the young people for the job market. We are going to be crossing over to the next conversation in just a bit. Remember, the Nairobi City County Assembly is set to make deliberations on whether to pass or reject a very crucial bill that is going to address the issue of sexual and gender-based violence in this particular county. We are going to be talking about that, and also how this bill seeks to seal some of the gaps in addressing this particular vice in the society. In just a bit, I will be engaging Mary Mwami, a nominated MCA right here in Nairobi. So do stay with us, but for now, we take a very short break.